If you've watched some of my videos, you might wonder why I have practical four-wheel drive content when the vehicle that I drive doesn't even have low-range gearing, and it's not even designed to go to places I take it to. I used to own a four-wheel drive with low-range gearing years ago, but for now we need to make do with what we have because we need a practical vehicle that we can use to serve our family's needs on a daily basis. The good thing about it is that it forces me to concentrate on improving my driving skill when driving off-road. Of course I did the obvious modifications like put bigger all-terrain tires, lifted suspension, underbody protection and so forth. But the most important thing that every four-wheel driver should be equipped with when going off-road, far more important than any modification on your vehicle, to me is the knowledge and driving skill. This includes risk assessment and safety. This is a huge factor as to why I was able to take my vehicle all around Fraser Island onto numerous four-wheel drive tracks, side tracks, and when my Nissan X-Trail was stock standard, I've even done the Condamine River track in Queensland. This is the track that you need to cross the river 14 times. This is a huge factor as to why I haven't broken anything on the vehicle since I bought it over 2 years ago and been to all these places I've just mentioned. This is a huge factor why I haven't had a single incident while out four-wheel driving. I'll be sharing several driving techniques today, and this is one thing that you'll continually see me share in my channel. So if you like what you see today, please consider giving this video a thumbs up, and if you haven't yet, consider subscribing to my channel as well. So let's start with the basics. Know your vehicle's limitation. So it may be limited suspension travel, maybe low ground clearance, or like my vehicle, maybe no low range gearing. Know your vehicle's strengths as well and use it to its full potential. So one of the greatest strengths of my vehicle is its weight. It's so lightweight. So let's just take this video for example. I am slowly going through this muddy track, thick muddy track, and my vehicle being so lightweight lower down my tire pressures to 20 psi, and I could easily float on top of this mud. So as you notice, there's hardly any wheel spin going on. I'm just slowly chugging along. So I've used my vehicle's strength in this situation. In this clip you'll see that I've come across this stump in the middle of the track, and I know that my vehicle's ground clearance in the front is much lower than the back. So I've driven close to this stump and I figured I may or may not hit it, but I said to play it safe, I'll try to go around it. But the problem is I can't go all the way around it because there are trees on either side of this narrow track. However, I could go a bit left and just get my right tire to miss the stump and do a hard right turn to miss the tree on the left, so I can go back in the middle of the track. That way I can make the stump cut through the middle of my vehicle, which has got higher ground clearance than the front, and I could get it to go through the back of the vehicle where obviously the ground clearance is much higher. Now the next thing is how to minimize the risk of breaking your CV joints, most especially for independent front suspension vehicles. When you go through uneven terrain, so like massive ruts, and your wheel goes up in the air and then back down on the ground, what happens is that your wheel lifts up in the air while you've got your foot down, so you instantly get a lot of wheel spin, especially if you don't have locking differentials, and your foot stays planted on the accelerator pedal, and that spinning wheel suddenly lands on the ground with the weight of your vehicle, and you can just imagine the stress that goes through, the impact that goes through that shaft, and the CV joint then snaps. One of the things you can do to avoid this from happening where possible is to learn how to control the accelerator pedal. So this is a good example here. This is a small obstacle. I go through it, and you'll see that as soon as my right wheel gets off the ground, starts spinning, you'll see me let off the gas. So the wheel will stop. I waited for it to land on the ground, and then I gave it a little bit of gas to continue the forward momentum of my vehicle. So that way there was hardly any stress on the shaft and the CV joint when the wheel hit the ground and gained instant traction. Next up is to learn how to control when to put your foot down and when to let off the throttle. In this clip, you'll hear the engine of my vehicle, and you'll figure out when I've gave it some gas and when I let off and then gave it some gas again. And you'll notice that I had a visual memory of the ruts going up this hill, and I knew exactly when to put my foot down, when the tires were down on the ground giving me traction, and when I let off when they were off the ground. And then when it landed again, then I gave it more gas again to continue the forward momentum. This is important for you to maintain just enough momentum to go through the obstacle, but have the least stress on your vehicle and the track as well. So just like on-road racing, having that light foot and a good feel of the terrain and your tires where it's positioned is really important with achieving something like this. Momentum is your best friend, but give it more than what's needed, and it could be your worst enemy. So this one takes a bit of practice, and it really depends on the actual obstacle, whether it's safe to do it or not. But you can practice it by giving it, less momentum, as I will demonstrate in this video. I've purposely gave it less momentum than what's needed to go up this hill. And you can see that I've safely backed down and then gave it a little bit more momentum this time to then overcome the hill. And you'll notice that with this one, as soon as you crest the hill, whether a sand dune or a muddy hill or something, then you can slowly let off the gas pedal, and you'll find that you won't be flying over that hill and causing stress to your vehicle. In this clip, you'll see that I've given it a little bit too much momentum, just a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit. And this is the sort of hill being so steep that you're probably better off giving it a little bit more than less, because it increases your risk of tumbling down the hill if you get it wrong on the way up because of the steepness of the hill. Now let's go to assessing risks. So in this video, what I've done is I've given it less momentum than needed to go over the obstacle. And my reason is I wanted to get the nose of my vehicle closer to where I want it to be able to see how far my vehicle will be to the edge of this thing. Doesn't look as close to the edge in the video, but I thought to myself, if I give it the right amount of momentum, which is I need to be a little bit faster, there's a chance that I may slip or slide and I may end up on the side of this bank. So I assessed the risk and I said to myself, I won't take this path being alone here on the track. I will take the one further to my left. And so I've done, and this brings us to our next step, which is picking the right line. Now this obstacle is an extreme, but it's still something that you need to think about and pick your right line. So I checked the clearance around, made sure that, yep, I'm happy with that. I've simulated my tires going up each rut, dip, and mound and dip, and I imagined how my suspension will react to it, having very limited suspension travel. I figured where my wheels are going to be, each wheels are going to be, is it going to be up in the air or down. am I going to have, if my back wheel is up, am I going to have two of my fronts planted on the ground to, to give me traction to pull me over? If the front's up in the air, will both of the back be on the ground to push me? So I kind of visualize that. And also this brings us to a next step, which is to have a good visual memory of the obstacle. So what I'm doing is I paused after checking the clearance and the line that I'm going to pick. I paused and visualized how it's going to be once I go over the obstacle. I have a good visual, so when as I'm driving over the obstacle, I also feel what each wheel is doing, and basing on my visual memory, I know that I'm still on the right line, because I knew that at this moment I could feel the rear wheel touch something, the front wheel spinning, and that sort of thing. So having a good visual memory as you drive over the obstacle, especially without a spotter, is very important. The last thing is water crossings, which are very fun to do off-road, but the risk level of this is quite high if you're not prepared for it. So as everyone knows, first thing you do is cool down your brakes, and while you're doing that, you check the depth of the water. If you need to walk it, you walk it. Check what's underneath the water. The problem here is that you can't see what's underneath. And a lot of water crossings are, along rivers as well. You're crossing rivers. And the problem with that is the current of the river constantly changes. So, and we don't know what the river's pushing downstream. It could be logs, rocks, big rocks. So it could change, the ground underneath the crossing could easily change. So walk the crossing, same, pick your line, have a feel of the rocks and the ruts or whatever's underneath, and pick the right line. And once you do your crossing, you would want to maintain what's called a bow wave. You want to enter the water at the right speed, not too fast and not too slow, to be able to maintain a bow wave, which is just the body of water being pushed. So the depth of the actual water is going to be lower. Once your vehicle starts pushing at the right speed, it's actually going to be lower through the middle and the back of the vehicle. The moment you go fast, you're going to ruin the bow wave. The moment you go slow, then the same thing happens. So there you have it, guys. Now that explains why the off-road footages that I take are quite boring compared to others. There's no high-speed bush bashing action going on there, because every time I go through an obstacle, I'm really careful, and I only take it at the right speed just to go over the obstacle, and that's it. And hence, again, my vehicle is not designed for such terrain, but I've never had, touch wood, I've never had to repair or break anything in the 2 years that I've owned it doing this sort of thing. So if my Nissan X-Trail can do it, surely your four-wheel drive can. So take it easy, guys, play it safe, learn as much as you can. Let's continue sharing knowledge between each other and learn from it. Stay safe on the tracks, look after your vehicle, look after the tracks, and we'll see you outdoors somewhere.